I'm here with Jonas. I think the second conversation that we've had on the Micro Solidarity channel. You've just had a retreat and you want to reflect on it with me. So tell me, what happened?
Yeah. So after our last conversation, I was kind of thinking about who to do this with and how to kind of frame it. And what came up, like, because the year was progressing and it was September at some point, and I was like, okay, let's try to get this done this year and make it like an end of the year, reflecting back on the year thing for activists from Vienna. And yeah, we did that 2 weeks ago. I hosted it together with 4 other people, and we had 8 participants, which was a very comfortable ratio of hosting team to participants. And yeah, we went to a house in the woods for 4 days and had an open space agenda and some like prepared sessions that me and some other folks hosted on like reflecting on the year and visioning for the next year, and some like basic support structures in place. And it was really nice. It worked out well. There was no big drama. Nothing unexpected happened, except a few people canceling short notice. And it was also very exhausting. And I see like a lot of like the way the planning process and the preparation process went could have been a lot better. Yeah, there was like, I kind of just took on all of the logistics and all of the organization and planning because everyone else didn't have time and I wanted them to be there as co-hosts. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. You just have to come and co-host it with me. And that led to me just having a way more clear picture of what I wanted to do there and what kind of space I wanted this to be. And also having been in Bergerac and the Embodying Collective Transformation residency for a month before that, led to me having quite the clear picture of what I want this to be, and everybody else wasn't there. So it was challenging for me to kind of ease into what's happening there and not try to make something happen, but just be like present with what's there. And yeah, I guess my question, or like what I'm wondering about, is like how to make a process like that more smooth when there's different levels of experience in a hosting team, and how to kind of create opportunity for everybody to grow while also like kind of holding everyone and not and everybody feeling supported. Yeah, for me it was kind of hard to feel supported sometimes because I felt so like I felt like I was the only person who had the whole picture and the whole overview, and like how to share that on the fly and like rely on others. And so yeah, I'm kind of wondering, what are your thoughts on kind of building trust in a hosting team or preparing for something like this together?
I guess whenever there's that level of inequality in terms of how much context people have, or how much time they have, or how much experience they have, or commitment, those kind of things. My first instinct is to make it more transparent, and so that it's a kind of explicit part of the system that we're working with. So my first question is like, how much, did you have a way of talking about that, like I'm the host and you're the helpers, or like was there any kind of way of making that distinction, or was it like we're the hosting team and it just so happens that I'm doing 80% of the labor?
Yeah, we didn't make it super explicit. I think it was implicitly quite clear. But I talked about it like in a few moments. I was like, okay, I notice I just have a very clear picture because I've been doing a lot of work around it and preparing the program and so. But there was like this kind of impulse towards like green, we're all equals here. That was partly coming from the others and also from within me, because it's like, part of me can be uncomfortable with like stepping into this explicit role of, hey, I'm holding this and please help me. And so there was never a moment when we made it super clear and explicit. Do
you want to tell me more about that discomfort?
Yeah, it's like the conversation goes like, I'm also just learning this. I don't know. Like I don't feel competent to step into this leadership position. I have ideas about it. I'm willing to try, but I can't kind of promise that it's going to be great. And I see how there's like some story about what leadership means in there, but yeah, it's like sometimes that can kind of covertly take over what's happening. And then like I kind of just back off and I'm like, okay, I know, but what do you think? How do you want to do it? And then the other person says how they want to do it, and I'm not satisfied with it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to claim to be excellent and say like, I know what's going to happen. It's going to be amazing. Trust me.
Yeah.
What is unique about you though? Like what qualities are you bringing that you do feel really comfortable with, that you know, like, yeah, I'm showing up and doing this that very few other people are doing here? And what is the uniqueness of your role?
I guess in this context, just bringing in the experience of like spaces like the Micro Solidarity Gathering or ECT is like just having been in those spaces and having experienced what's possible, and like kind of bringing the torch back to a new space. And I really very much trust in my ability to hold people with compassion and like create a warm and spacious and safe environment for people, and really like hold difference with care, and like when something happens in the room where there's tension, and not freak out. Like I know I can do that. And yeah, and like I have a clear picture of what are the singular things that like the small interventions that make space for something really amazing to emerge. And it's not that I came up with them. I learned them from you or Carlo or other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a sense for how that works. Yeah. That was easy to admit.
Good. It sounds a little bit like I'm trying to get a feel for how much of this is about specific skills and practices, and like, oh, I know that at this point you can just run this group process and it goes well.
Yeah.
And how much of it is the kind of feeling tone that, like, when you say carrying the torch, is that about processes or is that about vibes?
Good question. I think carrying the torch is more about vibes, but it kind of, it comes along with processes as well. Like I know which processes support vibes, but yeah, what I'm aiming for is the vibes. I'm not like, I don't really care about the processes.
Yeah. What's going on in my mind is just like, I wonder if there's a way when you're starting out as a team, to have some kind of mapping process, basically, where the five of you could each say, just have this conversation, like, what's your superpower that you bring to a group, or and what's your, anticipating that there is this, like, what you call the green thing, like this tendency to go, like, to equalize all differences and to be all into the sameness, like, what are your superpowers? And also, like, what are the, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right word. It's not quite shadows, but it's like, what resistance do you have to showing up in your full brilliance, and to be transparent about that with each other. And then, because I can imagine if I knew that, like, what you really want is to maintain that emotional state that helps the group be at peace and, like, have an easeful way of dealing with differences and so on. It's like, if that's really clear in my mind, it's like, okay, I'll just make sure that if I see you losing that, if you lose your calm, I'm going to step right in and be like, hey, come over here. Let's get it,
Yep.
But that's a very subtle thing that I don't expect a new collaborator is going to immediately pick up on without making it transparent. Like in our team with the Hum, we have what's called the team user manual, and basically everyone's got one page, and it's like, these are my superpowers, this is how I need feedback, this is how I want to show up, this is how much capacity I've got, those kind of just a few key questions. And then I guess the other question is, I think you asked how to make it more smooth, and I'm like, well, maybe smooth is just not a realistic, maybe that's not how it goes. Like, do you anticipate that this group is gonna, like the hosting team itself, do you anticipate that you're gonna keep doing stuff together and grow and become a thing, or or are you thinking like you might have to do a bunch of like these fresh, new hosting teams coming together, and then it's like, how do I do that efficiently or something?
Yeah. So I'm anticipating to be doing more work with them, with the same people, maybe in like shifting constellations. But there's definitely like excitement in the whole group to keep doing things like this. But also like everybody's seeing, oh yeah, maybe kind of a bit different next time. Yeah. And like smooth maybe isn't the thing to aim for, but what I mean by that is to not feel drained and exhausted afterwards. So kind of there can be bumps in the road and there can be difficult moments, but to know that like the hosting team crew is like capable of holding these things in a way that aren't requiring any one person to hold everything.
Something I heard from Jocelyn at Carl at ECT was their ambition was, we're going to run these 3 residencies, and our standard of success is if we get to the end with more energy than we started, then we know we've really nailed it. And I love that. Like, and that has been a guiding light for me too as a host, is like, at least, I mean, I think it's fine to run an event and then need a day or two to recover, but literally a day or two, like a weekend, not a like, whoa, I'm completely, kind of reeling. So it makes me wonder what happens after the event, like what are you doing as far as like retrospectives and debrief and integrating lessons and making sure that you actually took something away from that process. And is that a good quality standard that like, we just want to be able to do these things without being exhausted at the end?
Yeah, I think that's a really good quality standard for like personal experience. And then of course there's other things regarding the participants' experience. But what we do in terms of retrospective is we kind of screwed it up a little bit this time, because we didn't find a date for the retrospective before the event happened. And then like on the evening of the event, like of the last day, like when everybody left, we just went for some food together and had a chat for 2 hours. But that was like, we were all pretty like empty at that point, and there wasn't much energy. And now we couldn't find a date until like the 27th of December, which is like 3 weeks afterwards. So kind of a little bit too late. And there the idea is to look at different aspects of like, how did we feel? What is the feedback we got from the participants? How did the whole process before and during the event work? And what are things we would have needed to feel more easy, or like, were there any moments of disconnect or tension? That's that. And there's no, like, we don't have a specific format for that yet, but I guess there will be some form of start, stop, continue, or something like that.
The other thing is kind of linking back to the start. How much of your vision is on paper?
None.
Because if you want people to be sharing more of it, this is what I've been learning. Like, I've got a vision for the Micro Solidarity Network, and people know that I have a vision for it, because I have these like hard lines and edges and strong opinions about stuff. But they can only discover it by kind of asking me and prodding or trying something and watching me be disappointed, which is just not a very empowering process. And so like, I've been going through this gradual work to try and get it out and say like, there's all these different components, and to describe it in a way where it's not shutting down possibilities and saying it must be my way, but like, these are the components that are kind of in my imagination. And I just want to put them down there as the starting for people to go like, oh, I'm excited about that, but I would do it this other way. And then that's a really useful conversation. But yeah, I'm just wondering when would be a good time, like if it's now or if it's after another couple of loops or something, to start getting that out of your heart and mind and onto the wall.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it kind of links to some other questions, because we're not just like a group of friends doing this. We're kind of part of an organization called Civil Action Network, which one of us started, or like a few of us started a few years back, and like slowly pulled other people in, and I joined them this summer, and we had a really good flow. And so it's like, part of this larger process of figuring out what this network is going to be, and like kind of visioning there together. And within that, like what I'm most excited about is these retreat spaces, or like explorative personal development, whatever, like community building spaces. And for that, it would be a really good moment to write things out actually pretty soon. Yeah. Just for me personally also, like and it doesn't have to be that we kind of take that vision and try to implement it in this context, but and we're thinking about writing some grant applications to the EU for like a larger project next year, including some of these events. So it's like that it would be good to be clear about the vision before we do that together.
Yeah, nice. Nice. Have you seen the network map that I've been working on for Microsolidarity?
No, I don't think I looked at it in detail.
I'll quickly share screen just to give you.
This
is a new way of doing things that I am prototyping here. So it's in the handbook. And what I'm trying to get at is like there's each of these horizontal lines is like a subset of the vision. So there's like theory, here's events, here's online community, and then it's kind of like, here's a snapshot of what we currently have, and then here's a snapshot of what the vision might be, in a really vague way. And then each of these three columns is like to do, doing, done. So it's just like a Kanban project management system.
Yeah.
So it's like a vision that's tied to tasks, and and the hope is that because we're going to start this coordination group. This is the like network support crew. We're going to start that in January and have a monthly cycle where we'll look at this together, develop it more in a collaborative way rather than just me, and then start populating these tasks and moving them through the system. And ideally, what I'd love to see is that over time in the network, there'd be basically a working group around each one of these things, and maybe these are the wrong definitions and other working groups are going to form and do their own thing. And then we also have, this is the like ways of working, like how are we doing, what's our purpose for one working group? This is just for one working group. Like what are our objectives, work cycles, decision-making, etc. So like, I don't know how this is going to work because it's just the first sketch and we'll see how it actually gets adopted by the team in the network. But I'm excited about this combo vision to-do list thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's really cool. The coach in me wants to say that's not a vision, that's a to-do list. But
there's all these little micro visions next to the to-do list.
No, it's really cool to make it actionable. Yeah. Yeah.
And then people can see where they fit in, right? It's like, I've got heaps of skills and experience in this particular domain. So like I'll focus in there.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Yeah. Something like that would be good to kind of clarify the direction that this could take, and also to give people a chance to, like, for informed consent. Do I want to be part of this? Because I think the way that it went this time, I kind of really kicked it off with one person, with Jan, my main collaborator in this, and we kind of framed it and came up with like the context for it, or like the invitation and calling question and stuff, and thought about who we want to invite, and then thought about, okay, who else do we want to be on the team, and then I just asked those people, do you want to be part of this? And just like loosely described what it's about. But the larger project process of having a long conversation about what's going to be happening and with like out of which motivation was just between two people. And I'm not sure that everybody on the hosting team was actually fully in the loop about what our idea was. And this was due to like a perceived lack of capacities to kind of open that process up. But good to see that for the future.
I get that. Another thing that's on my mind, when we met in Belgium, and I was hosting that gathering with a team of 5 people as well, and we were, I think, we had a reasonably sophisticated design. There's a lot of thought, there's a lot of people with a lot of talent and capacity. It was kind of a full program in some ways. Like it's the kind of thing that I could never pull off by myself. Like I need to have a full, highly competent team. In Denver, when we had the second Microsolidarity retreat, the day before the gathering started, my 2 co-hosts dropped out because of COVID. And so it was this thing. Well, I freaked out for a long time. And then, and then basically it was this real confrontation with the way that we did it in Belgium is not resilient to change. And so I was one of the, I don't know about you, I always find with these kind of retreats that there's a kind of emergent question or an emergent lesson or something that's like banging me on the head, like ding, 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 ding. Yeah. This is the lesson for you today. So there's a big thing for me about giving up control. But one of my collaborators there gave me this phrase. She just said, like, Rich, what's the least that you can do?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering about, in your, just like from the top of your mind, like if you imagine doing this in a way that is not exhausting, at least, and ideally regenerating, in a 4-day gathering with say 15 to 30 people, what's the least that you could do? And you'd feel like this is actually going to be really valuable for people.
Yeah, I think the focus would shift a little bit towards setup, like seeding the space with the right kind of impulses in the invitation, because this time it was really loose. It was, let's come together to reflect how the year went in our activist engagements, and like what are the seeds you planted and the things that grew out of them, and what did you harvest, and let's look forward to the next year. It was not very like people didn't really know like what to expect from that in terms of feeling or vibe. And I think that's where I would put some more effort next time, is in setting up the frame in a way so that it, on the one hand, attracts people that are really down for that, for like a close, rich, vulnerable community experience. And on the other hand, so that everybody that is there is on the same page about like what's going to be happening, or like what kind of vibe to expect. And then what's the least I could do during that event? Yeah, I think there's some sort of minimum structure that's necessary to have that feeling of, okay, we're here together and it's not just a bunch of random people, like some sort of circle structure throughout the day. Or like this time we kind of framed it all around the meals, like the meals were common moments, and then there was a morning circle, and the sessions were kind of non-mandatory, or we explicitly said come if you want, but you don't have to. Yeah. It doesn't feel like I hit it yet. the aha moment of that question. Yeah, I think what I'm really excited about in those moments is when people can really meet each other, and then there's enough trust and safety so that people can get real with each other. And yeah, it's not quite obvious to me right now what I can, like, what is the least I can do to make that happen.
Yeah.
Because like I have a lot of thoughts about, oh, I could do all of these 10 things that would contribute to trust being present, and then in the end I would be the like, maybe it's be trusting myself, like make sure that I can model trust and vulnerability, or yeah, that I feel safe, and or the hosting team can model that. Yeah, because maybe it's not about creating a lot of different structures and then we are all busy all the time maintaining them, and the vibe people get from the people that invite them, it's like, oh, everybody's pretty busy here, I better get busy too. Yeah, maybe it's really just more about that, about kind of tending to the well-being of people, or like, yeah.
That's pretty much what happened to me in Denver. Like,
yeah,
because I was thrown so far out of my comfort zone that I had no choice but to give up on all of the process design that we had made, all of these different things that we'd planned. It's like, I can't do that without a team of people that know how to play that game with me. I need my co-stars, you know?
Yeah.
So then all I really did was well, there's the convening. And you didn't name that, but I think that might be something you're doing that's important too, which is like really proactively bringing the right people into the room and saying like, it's really important to me that we get to a room like that needs to happen, and holding that. I don't know at all, but I'm just guessing that in Vienna, in the activist scene, you're probably the one with the strongest commitment to like, we need to be in a space, we need to be reflective, we need to feel safe, we need to have trust. Like you're one of the ones that really treasures that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's crucial. So there's a thing that's being done, but it's already happened before everyone arrives.
Yeah.
And then yeah, what happened to me in Denver was like, my opening words to the group were basically just disclosing my own vulnerability and stress, and like, this is what the experience has been like, and modeling, it's okay. Like, it's been a hard day and it's fine. And I'm just going to be real with you, and I'm not going to put up a mask and pretend that things are easier than they are. And that set the emotional tone at the start and sort of rings the bell. It's like, this is what we're doing here. We're being transparent with each other in a self-responsible way. And then I literally feel like I did hardly anything else apart from moving through the space and having contact with people one-on-one and helping them find their way into the group, you know?
Yeah.
And all of the group process stuff, I let go of all of the designs that I had in mind. And there was some, you know, there's moments where just like spontaneously I'm in a small group conversation that someone else is leading and they ask me to contribute in a certain way. And that's a like effortless, a joy to contribute. But yeah, it's just interesting that your conclusion of like setting that emotional tone was basically what happened to me. I didn't strategize it that way, but yeah, it felt like the right. I don't know how to describe it. It felt like the best thing that I could offer for the least effort.
Yeah.
You know, like the biggest impact for the least effort. And that's very sustainable. It's very nourishing. It's like people were like coming up, how can I help? How can I help? I'm like, it's fine. It's handled.
Yeah.
Partly because I had awesome collaborators in the room that were taking care of things.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could say more about the feeling, like, because I saw you squint slightly when I said it's about convening and having the vision for who should be there and all that sort of thing. But like, there's something that you're doing that I think is quite unique. And I wonder if it's about the feeling, the specific, the mood, you know, the vibe, the way that people are treating each other, like the way that people can open up in a certain way. How do you describe that dimension of the work?
To others? Or yeah. Yeah, it's like maybe I can say like why I care about it or why I think it's important. I don't know, or I'm not quite sure where your questions are.
I want to know how you describe, like I'm guessing if you're like me, you have a sense, you have some kind of, there's some sense organ inside of you that can read when it's right and knows when it's not right and will make adjustments. And I want to know what are the words that you use to describe when it's right, you know, like what's the thing that you're going for?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the thing I'm going for is like this sense of like presence and like openness, where I can kind of sense into the field of connections that is in the room, and like the baseline for that after the first day where everybody's a bit anxious and gets to know each other is like gentle and wavy, and then when something happens it's immediately obvious, like when there's some tension it's like okay, that needs attention. Whereas in a lot of activist spaces usually like the landscape is more like as the baseline. And you don't know when there's actual things that need taken care of because everybody's so anxious all the time, or kind of suspecting that someone has a hidden agenda, or like there's like power plays going on and all this stuff. And so what I'm kind of going for is just the sense of I don't need to hide anything here. I can say what's going on within me, even if that means saying like, oh, that what you just said made me sad or angry or frustrated me or something, because I trust that we both commit to engaging in this process until we feel easy about it again. Kind of this, like knowing that I don't have to take care of my emotions on my own. Like I take responsibility for them, but I can kind of use the group as a echo chamber or like a resonance body to figure out what's happening, and like then it's like a co-creative process of understanding and learning how social dynamics work and how we can be more present with each other and the shit that's going on around us, and like show up fully to the challenge of like solving the mess that we're in.
The image that comes to mind as you're describing that is like if you're more familiar, activist context is like a swimming pool with like lots of people jumping in and out, and there's all this like this is more like a hot bath where maybe there's multiple, maybe it's a spa, maybe multiple people are in there, but they're settled. And so when someone moves, you actually notice the ripple, and you're like, oh, okay, we can respond to that. What's going on there? Why? What's the point of doing that?
It's just it just like takes so much less energy globally to do that together than if everybody tries to figure it out on their own. Like that's one of the main things I took away from ECT, is like being in that kind of spa bath where you immediately notice a ripple and you can immediately take care of it. Like you don't carry attention with you for a week until it kind of explodes, and then you have this big thing, and it takes ages to get back into connection with someone. But it's just a minor thing, and you can take care of it immediately together, and then like you can move on, you can grow from there. You're not held back, and it's like more of a flow state of like engaging in personal and interpersonal development together. And like and we don't know how to self-organize as a culture. Like we're just learning it. We're just learning the ways of being that are required for humans to stay around much longer. And the way I see it, this way of being together is the way forward. Like that's the way how we learn, how we can become more of that together.
What I'm hearing in that is like paying attention, like creating the conditions where people can pay attention to the impact they're having on each other, so they can clean up in an efficient way when there's some kind of tension build or some kind of mistrust happens, or some kind of like, oh, I'm withdrawing from you, you've done something, and now I want to create more space between us. And that in the right conditions, you can actually notice that and respond and quickly weave the social fabric back together. And not in an anxious way, not like, oh my God, we're gonna but like, no, I want to be in connection with you. Like, how do we come back into that into that state of mutuality again? That now my question is like, I know the value of that, and you know the value of that, but do you think that that's the thing that you put on the label that says this is what we're doing, or is that the kind of Trojan horse? Well, we say we're doing reflecting on your activists here.
That's the point. And that is actually looping back to something that I wanted to bring up earlier, and then we kind of moved on from that. It's like how to acclimate people to this kind of culture. Because when you said like what you did in Denver, it was in the opening, you were just like super transparent and vulnerable and kind of modeled that way of being. I remember a few moments in that gathering that we did where I tried to do something similar. Like, and I noticed how people were like, "What is he doing? That's uncomfortable. I don't want to be doing that." So I'm kind of wondering how to like. I know that it's gonna be uncomfortable in some moments, and it's okay and normal. But like, what's the pace of acclimating people to?
I don't know. I think you said before, you said informed consent. I think that might be part of the puzzle. Is like, I didn't do this, and actually this is one of the regrets from from all of my gatherings really, but especially from the last one, is like giving people helping them set their expectations really clearly. And it's hard because it's like, it doesn't matter what you write, people don't read it. Most people don't read it. So it's like how to get really, really efficient in the communication delivery of like, this is what you can expect. But I came away from that last gathering thinking, imagine this is a psychedelic retreat, and the kind of informed consent you give people before they go into a psychedelic retreat is like, this is what you can expect. These are the risks. Like, this could be a really intense emotional experience for you. If it goes well, you can expect some kind of breakthroughs. We can't promise them, you know, like you might have a nominated next of kin, or like, who's your support person who's not going to be here that we can call if you're really distressed. Like, I think giving people more, and maybe that even happens in like the application process, like more kind of priming about, if this goes well, it'll be a deep experience, and we want to support you in getting untangled and unstuck on some of your interpersonal and interior dynamics, that like, if it goes well, it'll be therapeutic, and we're not qualified therapists. So there's an awkward kind of line to walk there. And I'd love to just get better at explaining that in a way that I have a theory. Well, it's not complete theory, it's partly from practice of like, there's a way where you can describe the invitation so clearly that people self-filter and all the right people come, and you don't have to have this role of like being the decider of who should be in or out. You just say, this is what we're up for. If you're up for that, come along. And that it's really kind if you can give that level of clarity to people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also the thing I'm aiming for, I think, or the learning that came out of this is that, okay, there needs to be more explicit descriptions of what you can expect in this kind of space. And what it immediately brings up is like this thought of, how is it gonna grow like that? Like, if only the people who are okay with this kind of culture anyway come, like, what's the point in doing it? Kind of like, how do I bring it to people? Like, what's the what's like the first small experience of that? Like how to get people excited about trying this out, like, you know, that aren't quite there yet.
I mean, are you similar to me in that you're like, I have a sense that basically a lot of what's happening in climate activism specifically is basically just very unappealing to me. And I'm like, I just think you're approaching this in a way that's like, I admire your commitment and enthusiasm, but I don't think it's strategic. I don't think it's helpful because of the emotional tone. Are you like me on that, or are you a bit more optimistic than I am?
Am I like you in that I see climate activism like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. In some ways, yeah. Yeah.
Because my approach there is basically to be the happiest person in the room. You know, like not just happy, but effective. Like, look, this is my activism. This is the impact that I'm having, and I'm happy and relaxed, and available and playful. And I don't want to have an argument about that. I don't want to persuade you about why being agitated and oppositional and like fearful is not actually strategic. I'm just going to show you that there's a different way to be that's still effective. It's not like I'm being lazy. It's not like I've given up the responsibility of being a conscious actor in this time that we live in. But I want to live in a way that's attractive, and that people want, they're like, what are you doing? I want some of that. How come these opportunities are coming your way? How come you can just show up and be happy all the time? How come you can deal with these conflicts that happen instead of like having this level of brittleness that it snaps? And it's like, well, it's because of the emotional tone that we're intentionally cultivating, and these relationships that you're describing keep us very well resourced. Yeah. And so that my immediate answer to you is kind of like, my instinct is like, don't try and recruit a lot of people or give them these taster experiences that invite them in, but just prove there's a different way to be. And the people that are ready for that, they'll come. Like the way that you came to the micro solidarity gathering and say, hey, there's something here. I know there's something there and I want it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's like in everyday life, be a beacon for this way of being, and then talk about what are the things you're doing, and like, be open for people to kind of join, but don't try to make them want it. Or yeah.
And you've done an awesome job already as well about documenting your learning and being transparent about that process as well, which I think is quite attractive. That it's like, I don't get the impression from you that you think you're hot shit and everyone should do what you're doing. It's like, this is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
This is working for me. This stuff I'm confused about. We're figuring it out. And I think that, I think that creates the context where people can trust you and be like, I know that I can come towards you and get something, and you're not gonna, it doesn't feel like you've got an agenda, like you said, like you're not trying to make people a certain way.
Yeah, my agenda is that people have a good time. And but yeah, that's kind of relaxing to hear. It's like I don't need an elaborate marketing strategy.
No. And my hope is that the Micro Solidarity Network itself kind of does a lot of the marketing, that like it's gradually building more and more surface area.
Yeah.
So that someone can come in and they're like, oh, I live in Austria. It's like, well, I know who to send you to. Or like, I'm a climate activist. Well, I know who to send you to. That I think that's just like gradually starting to accumulate surface area to catch people.
Yeah.
Catch is a negative word. Welcome people.
Yeah.
Catch like the hot bath catches you.
Yeah. It's like when someone trips and is about to fall, you catch them.
Yeah. Good.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Sweet.
I have a question. You might be able to anticipate it, which is, what's the business model?
Yeah. Well, this time there was none.
Yeah.
But I personally, for myself, have come to the conclusion that I'm not gonna be doing this kind of work unpaid. It's just too much. Like I care too much about it, and I'm giving too much to not have any kind of like any payback for that. It was, I don't know, around 30-40 hours of prep work, and then being there for 4 days like fully, and then some days after that still taking care of stuff. So it's just like, wow, that's a lot of work. Right now we're thinking about getting some Erasmus funding to kind of have a series of these events with maybe some more training aspects as well, and a little bit more content. That's one idea, and the other is to either a hybrid or fully just sell tickets to people. Where this is kind of tricky in this space that we're navigating, because a lot of people on the one hand expect support and care work to be free or unpaid for whatever reason, and on the other hand just realistically oftentimes don't have the kind of financial resources to pay this work fully. Like it can be like some contribution towards paying the people that are involved, an okay-ish compensation, but I think it's if the aim is to do this for like civil society activist kind of people, then I think there needs to be some other model where it's not just fully tickets.
Yeah.
Do
you have experience with this like EU funding stuff? Like, do you feel like you know how to get that rolling? Yeah,
we so Jan, who was kind of the main other person doing this with me, he has some experience, and we're kind of working together on another project that he got funding for with a different group. And it's like, so there's in our ecosystem there is skills in getting kind of funding.
Yeah, great. This is another thing that I'm interested in at the network level, is like in my fantasy there's like 15 people like you which are getting paid full time just to do community building while I write the book about what it is that you're doing and what you're learning. And, there's some philanthropic source that's just paying you to do that, that, because it's just such an obvious hole at the moment that there's very few people with the skills, and then those people can't afford to do it. It's like we need to increase that capacity a lot. The hosting capacity for this kind of work is really crucial. Do you know the ULEX project in Catalonia?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because they I've had some good conversations with them about funding. They're really experienced with this, especially Erasmus. Yeah. Just laughing because I was supposed to go there in November,
And then I was at ECT and didn't want to leave and decided to stay at ECT instead of going to ULIX.
So it goes.
Yeah. I will go there at some point, though. I have a hunch it's a good place to learn.
The other thought that I had about money, I wonder if it makes sense, like if it's not ticket sales, because I get that. That just, people that are putting so much energy into doing good stuff in the world that's not paying them very much, so they don't have a lot of spare cash lying around to pay you like a decent price for a ticket. But do you think they might be up for paying like membership dues, like $20 a month or something for some kind of online experience that then gives them priority access to coming to the next retreat or something like that?
Yeah. I've been thinking about a model like that as well for the whole Civil Action Network thing. Is like how to both engage people long term and not only have them come to one retreat or something like that. But yeah, that could be something. It's just requires creating some more offerings on a consistent basis that will kind of be the price for that ticket or that membership. There's some ideas flying around the space like this, but it's not super specific yet. But it's definitely something to consider.
I even wonder if how much you do need to promise, like, because it could be like, for example, if you used Open Collective and you said, we're going to do a monthly contribution, we're all, whoever wants to, it's going to make a monthly contribution at $10, $20 a month, something like that. And we don't really know what the money is for yet. Yeah. But what we do know is that anyone who's contributed is going to have a vote on how we spend it. And I'd wonder if people would be up for that, for like growing this pot of money and without knowing what we're going to do.
What it's for, yeah. My sense is like within Civil Action Network, like the people that are more engaged with it, like in the core team, and there's like 20 to 30 people that kind of sometimes interact with the offerings that we put on. That could be a base to start doing something like this. And we're kind of already doing that because it's like a legal entity and it's an association, and there's members of the association that pay a monthly contribution to pay for an office space and stuff. So it's like kind of already happening in that way, but it's not in a public way. We're not kind of inviting everybody to do that. It's more like the people that are more close to it.
So this is the other question then, is like after the event itself, did you design anything about how participants stay in contact with each other, or like is there any ongoing digital connection or something like that?
Yeah, there's a Signal group that everybody's a part of. It's not active right now, but it's actually a good point. I might throw some some prompts for interaction in there. This kind of fell under the table for the moment because the year's wrapping up and stuff, but there will be things happening like next year where like these people that had an experience of what we did there will be probably the first for us to invite them into the new offerings.
Nice.
Yeah. And also like many of them are collaborators and friends anyway. Like it's not like we reached far and wide. We kind of pulled in the people that were closest to us.
I mean, this for me is part of the question of like, how do you not get exhausted? Is you make sure that these peak experiences of gatherings are actually accumulating energy, and it's not just getting all dispersed into random corners of the world. It's like it's actually in some kind of bounded system. So that you know that you are contributing a lot at the moment, but you're feeding something which is going to be self-sustaining, and that you know that that will catch you next time you trip.
That actually brings up some ideas. Cool.
I've got a hard stop at the hour, so if there's any last thing that's on your mind, we can talk about it, or else we can wrap up.
No, it feels pretty good right now. I think there's always more, but nothing that's really burning. Thanks for the time, and really enjoyed playing.
I'm like I said, I'm really grateful for your transparent learning process. I'm like reflecting on this conversation, and what you're doing I think is really important. And I have this feeling of like, sometimes I get a little bit too advisor mode, teacher mode, like more than I want to be. And that's fine. That's those are parts of me. But I think what I want to leave you with not is like, oh, my cool idea, but more like my deep love for what you're doing and my commitment to like being one of the people that supports you to keep doing it.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. That means a lot. And also want to speak to the parts of you that feel like you're too teachy sometimes. That's also what I'm here for. So
right. All right.
Cool.
Happy family time with Christmas and all that.
Yep. Thanks. Same to you. See you soon.
Ciao, buddy.
Bye-bye.